You are designed to run out of steam long before you think you should. Here is what biology has quietly wired into you. Exhaustion is not just poor time management or lack of grit. It's an ancestral survival program still running on outdated hardware. First, feel the urgency. This invisible code shapes your mornings, colors your conversations, steals focus from work, and turns small social frictions into weeks of low energy. If you ever blamed yourself for being tired, anxious, or emotionally flat, this video will show you a map of why that feeling exists, how it helped our ancestors survive, and how it now turns everyday modern life into a slow-burning trap. What you're about to hear will change how you see stress, social life, productivity, and even why your phone ruins your sleep. First, imagine a brain wired to detect danger instantly. The amygdala, the part of the brain that flags threats, reacts before your conscious thought arrives. In deep time, that split-second reaction saves lives. Detect, rustle, sprint, survive. That system is tied to hormones like adrenaline and cortisol that mobilize energy quickly. In the Paleolithic, this was episodic: run from predator, then rest by the fire. But here is the most disturbing detail. In modern life, the same alarm is tripped by a boss's email, a headline, a social slight. The physiological cascade prepares you for life or death action while your body never gets to expend the energy. The result is not bravery tested and concluded. It's chronic activation, depleted glycogen, fraying neurons, and a constant feeling of being worn thin. It looks like anxiety, but it is a predator detector misreading social noise, and it costs focus, sleep, and mood. But here is the detail more unsettling. We evolved to survive in tribes where being expelled could mean death. The brain encodes social pain in the same networks it uses for physical pain. You literally feel social rejection as a wound. In ancestral bands, smoothing conflict and signaling loyalty were high-stakes behaviors that can serve the group. So evolution made us exquisitely sensitive to social cues, facial expressions, tone, small shifts in posture. Fast forward to now, and a neutral text, an ambiguous meeting, or a single curt reply can set off that same ancient alarm. Smiling through disdain at work, faking enthusiasm in a meeting, or staying silent because you fear rocking the boat. These modern rituals drain energy in the same way constant low-grade infection would. The cost is emotional exhaustion and the gradual hollowing out of authenticity. The brain treats social smallness as existential danger, and you pay the psychological bill. It is at this point our biological hardware collapses. Our physiology was calibrated for short bursts of intense work, chasing a prey, dragging it back, feasting, repairing. It was not built for the modern treadmill of back-to-back meetings, commuting, screens, and the illusion of perpetual availability. Chronically high cortisol undermines sleep architecture, suppresses immune repair, and erodes motivation. The body is stuck in fight or flight mode with nowhere to fight. You wake up already tired, you drag through the day, then you can't sleep because the stress system is still simmering. The cost: cognitive fog, poorer memory, irritability, and a slowly shrinking reservoir of resilience. But the problem runs deeper, into the machinery of reward. Our dopamine system evolved to reinforce behaviors that secured scarce, vital resources: a sweet fruit, a mating opportunity, a social alliance. Those hits were infrequent, meaningful, and reset the system. Today, novelty and reward are endless. Likes, headlines, short bursts of dopamine from endlessly scrolling. The brain's reinforcement circuits learn to chase micro-rewards that never satisfy, demanding more attention and leaving behind a dull ache of depletion. You felt this when you keep scrolling at night. Each tiny victory of new content feels satisfying for a second, yet you wake up drained. That chronic chase rewires motivation toward immediate clicks and away from deep work or restorative rest. It's not moral failure. It's an evolved machine designed for scarcity being fed infinite junk food. Now consider immune system responses that evolved to protect us from infections and injury. The body's inflammatory response produces what scientists call sickness behavior: fatigue, social withdrawal, slower movement. Behaviors that conserve energy to fight illness. In ancestral contexts, this was adaptive. When you were wounded or infected, the body enforced rest. But modern chronic stress produces low-level inflammation without the injury, triggering the same sickness scripts. That means your body can make you rest, even when there's no physical injury to heal. The cost is a persistent tiredness that doesn't respond to willpower or positive thinking. It's biology telling you to slow down. Except there's nothing to heal besides the stress itself. The problem is that many of these systems interact, amplifying each other. Sleep deprivation sensitizes the threat detector, making small stressors feel catastrophic. Social isolation increases inflammation. Constant novelty blunts deep motivation. The brain's fast, gut reactions, the heuristics that made split-second life or death decisions possible, now run the show over our slower, reasoned thinking. Daniel Kahneman's System 1 and System 2 are shorthand for this. The quick, automatic responses that once saved us now govern most of our day, while the reflective system struggles to keep up. The result is a mind that reacts more than it plans, and an energy budget that burns faster than it refuels. But it is here that the past collides violently with the present, hierarchy and status. In small bands, status determined access to mates and food. Subtle cues regulated who led and who followed. Today, hierarchies are encoded into constant performance evaluation, social media metrics, and workplace politics. The same neural circuits that monitored rank in a small group are now monitoring a global audience. Every perceived slight, every comparison scroll, triggers resources to be diverted towards status defense. Your body registers this as a survival concern and consumes energy accordingly. The cost is chronic vigilance, competitive exhaustion, and an erosion of cooperation. Exactly the thing that would have kept a tribe alive. Picture a brutal contrast. The brain's predator alarm, once tripped by a rustle in tall grass, is now triggered by an email subject line. The bonding rituals that once ensured the tribe's safety have become the terror of public shaming and cancel culture. That image is not rhetorical. It is the crisp, cynical collision between an organ built for a world of small, slow lives and a civilization of instantaneous signals. The mismatch creates tension in your nervous system and fatigue in your body. There are also ecological mismatches that feel invisible but are profound. Our circadian system evolved with predictable light-dark cycles, daylight for activity, darkness for sleep and repair. Now, artificial light, late-night screens, and irregular schedules scramble those cues. Melatonin, the hormone that signals night, is suppressed by blue light, delaying sleep onset and reducing sleep quality. The result is a cascade. Poor sleep increases inflammatory markers, amplifies stress reactivity, and lowers cognitive performance. What was once a reliable rhythm becomes a source of chronic depletion. And there is a lesser-known evolutionary trick that works against modern endurance: the brain's energy management strategy. The organ uses a disproportionate share of calories, so the body evolved mechanisms to conserve energy when resources were scarce. Fatigue is an economizing signal. Slow down, conserve calories, avoid unnecessary risk. In ancestral times, this preserved survival during lean seasons. Today, when food is abundant and jobs demand constant output, that same economizer interprets cognitive overload as a resource emergency and forces you to rest or underperform. It can feel like laziness, but it's actually your brain refusing to burn its reserves for marginal gains. It is exactly here that the human brain makes a catastrophic calculation error in a modern context. It treats social and cognitive threats as physical threats and spends metabolic currency accordingly. You may sit still in an office, but your body prepares to sprint. You may fake a smile, but your stress system thinks you're defending your social life. You may scroll for distraction, but your reward circuitry becomes addicted to novelty at the expense of deep satisfaction. Those are not failures of character. They're the predictable outcomes of an anatomy tuned to a different world. Yet, despite this bleak anatomy, there are practical epiphanies that change everything. The first is recognition. Once you know which alarms are ancestral echoes and which are real, you can start to distinguish them. The second is rhythm. Restoring predictable cycles of activity, rest, and social contact realigns your biology. Think of sleep as a non-negotiable ritual, not a reward. The third is boundary. Limiting notification-driven reactivity reduces false alarms. The fourth is meaningful novelty. Instead of endless microdoses of dopamine from feeds, cultivate deep, rarer rewards. Face-to-face conversation, creative work, physical exertion. Those produce slower, more durable satisfaction and repair the reward circuitry. But the deeper change is mythic, reframing exhaustion as a message from your biology rather than an indictment. When you view fatigue as a negotiated compromise shaped by millions of years, you can treat it with curiosity instead of shame. You begin to ask different questions. Where did this alarm come from? What does it protect? What modern signal is it mistaking for a predator? That switch in perspective dissolves a lot of self-blame and opens room for gentle experiments that rewire habit without moralizing. There are vivid, human scenes that show how this all plays out. Imagine a young professional entering a room full of strangers, muscles tight, heartbeat elevated. The ancient sociality mechanism is firing, interpreting the room as potential allies or threats. She smiles, gestures, moderates her opinions, and by the end of an hour feels emotionally drained. The biology rewarded her caution by keeping her connected. The modern cost is exhaustion and a loss of authenticity. Or picture a parent scanning a phone at 2 a.m., each notification a phantom threat that prevents deep sleep. The immune system shifts, mood sours, and the next day is compromised. Or imagine a worker forced to fake enthusiasm through an entire shift, the sustained act consuming emotional energy like a furnace. Each of these scenes is a microdrama of evolutionary mismatches. The problem is not that evolution made a mistake. The problem is that evolution solved different problems than the ones we face now. That's the brutal contrast. A machine optimized for survival in small bands is expected to navigate globalized, hyper-connected life without updates. We pay with fatigue, anxiety, and a sense that our will is failing. The sobering epiphany is that many of our most persistent struggles are not personal flaws, but the predictable byproducts of being organisms mismatched to our environment. And yet there is an elegant form of agency buried in that epiphany. Small, targeted changes can quiet the ancestral alarms. Regulating light, creating buffer zones between work and home, practicing micro-rests that mimic ancestral feast and rest cycles, and limiting exposure to endless novelty can restore balance. Social rituals that actually replenish, deep conversations, honest vulnerability in safe spaces, communal meals, return membership benefits without exhausting defenses. Even brief practices that engage the parasympathetic nervous system, slow breathing, grounding practices, short walks in nature, signal to the body that the predator has passed. These are not panaceas. They are strategic patches that respect the architecture of your biology. If you want to keep exploring the ancestral ghosts that haunt modern minds, subscribe. We'll keep pulling at the threads that connect your hormones, your history, and your daily life. In the end, the narrative comes down to a single reconciliation. You were built to survive scarcity and danger, not to thrive in a world of constant signals. Exhaustion is not a moral failure to be corrected with willpower. It is a message from a body that still remembers how to avoid being eaten. Understanding that rewires shame into compassion, panic into planning, and fatigue into a map for change. We are fragile, beautifully fallible primates living inside a civilization that amplifies every ancient whisper. Knowing that is not defeat, it is the first step toward repair. You are not broken, you are evolved.